Hey everybody, welcome back to Great Mechanical Pencils. If you own a TK-matic L and something on it breaks, you've probably wondered the same thing. Do I need to hunt down another L to fix it? Or perhaps, can you rate a cheap green TK-matic for parts? Or perhaps you want to restore your favorite TK-matic and you've wondered, how can I fix it? Today we're going to find out. I'm swapping out the conical tip, the knurled grip, and the internal clutch mechanism between all three of these pencils, live on camera, and showing you exactly what fits and what doesn't, and if the compatibility actually breaks down. Before we get into it, this video continues my TK-matic series, after being prompted by several viewers asking about swapping parts. So thanks for the suggestion. Hopefully this should answer those questions, and yours too, especially if you're restoring a vintage TK-matic. So I'll leave a link to that video at the end. Here you can see I've started taking apart the standard TK-matic. The lead reservoir tube can be removed, but it's held in place by a friction ring. To remove it, grab it firmly and pull it from the tip end to free it. However, unless something's actually wrong with it, there's really no reason to remove it. From what I can tell, this tube is nearly identical across all three models, or at least on the three examples that I have. The eraser caps are interchangeable across all three models, although some collectors have pointed out some very minor differences in the finishes. And the pocket clips are nearly identical, if not identical outright. On my examples, all three use the same font. However, I've seen some other TK-matics out there stamped with a different font. Now let's take apart the Lux or L model. This is the one collectors get excited about. Where the standard TK-matic uses a plastic barrel, the L trades that out for an all-metal body. And that shift wasn't just cosmetic. Back in the 1970s and 80s, this was a premium option in the TK-matic line. It was a step up in materials, a step up in the cost, and it was marketed accordingly, positioned above the standard model for people who wanted the higher-end drafting tool. That premium status is exactly why it's the rarer, more sought-after piece today. Fewer were made, fewer were bought, and fewer survived compared to the plastic-bodied version. But, mechanically, it all comes apart the same way as the one we just looked at. Here I've got the lead reservoir tubes from two of the TK-matics, and because they're friction fit, pulling it out risks bending the tube, so there's really no practical reason to remove it during normal use or teardown. I just wanted to show you, for comparison's sakes, that between these two examples, the lead tubes are practically identical. Now let's open up the black model, the Schwarz or S model. Schwarz is simply German for black, and that's really all this variant is. It's the same TK-matic, just in black plastic instead of the standard green. It's worth knowing the name because you'll see it referenced that way in catalogs, forums, and by other collectors. It's also worth noting that of the three colors, a small number of the black examples were co-branded with other companies. So if you're hunting variants, this is one to watch out for. But the pencil itself is identical to the others, in every way that matters. Same components, same tolerances, and same assembly. And it comes apart exactly as the last two did. And now that we've taken everything apart, let's start swapping some of the parts around. So now I'm putting together a bit of a hybrid. I'm assembling the L model, but swapping in parts from a standard green model as I go. First, the grip comes from the green model, not the L. And then the clutch, also pulled from the standard green, goes into place inside that grip. And finally, the tip from the green model gets screwed onto the grip to close it up. So when this is all together, the entire front half of the pencil, clutch, grip, and tip, is coming from a donor standard model, while the rear half, including the lead reservoir tube, is the original L model. Now that I've got this hybrid pencil fully assembled, let's load a piece of lead and test the automatic advance function. And there it is, working exactly as it should. So that confirms this is a legitimate way to resurrect a pencil that's missing parts or not functioning correctly. But it's also something you'll want to check for when you're buying one secondhand. You need to verify it actually has the correct clutch inside, not a mismatched one like we just built here. So let me show you exactly how to spot that. Here I've got clutches from a couple different pencils laid out for comparison. The easiest way to tell them apart is the end ring on the clutch assembly. On the L model, the end ring is metal. On the standard models, it's plastic. That one detail alone will tell you which pencil the clutch actually came from. And here's a close-up of that clutch assembly. Now that I've got the L body back together, but this time I've swapped out the clutch assembly from a donor Schwarz, the black model, and put it inside of the all-metal L. The tip is the original L tip, put back on itself, so essentially this pencil is entirely original L parts, with the one exception being the clutch, which now comes from the black model instead. So let's test it. I'll load a stick of lead by knocking the pencil, and then I'll check the automatic advance mechanism. And there it is, working exactly as it should. Since the black and green models are essentially identical internally, I think this is a solid test. It shows that you can swap just the clutch from a donor pencil, regardless of color, and the automatic advance function will work perfectly fine. I wanted to take a minute and thank you for watching. And if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it tells YouTube to share it with more people. This last section will show you the most common problem you might run into, a bent or broken tip. Here I'm taking the Lux model and replacing just the tip from the standard S model. This shows that the tips are interchangeable between the two, a straightforward fix if yours ever gets lost or damaged. With the new tip in place, let's load it up and put it to the test. I'll knock the pencil to feed a fresh stick of lead. And now let's check the automatic advance mechanism. And there it is, feeding smoothly, working exactly as it should. So tip swapped and the pencil is still fully functional. While I had it apart, I also noticed I had on the wrong eraser cap. I had the cap from the standard green model, so I swapped that out as well. Again, this just reinforces how interchangeable these parts really are across the lineup. A bent tip or non-functional clutch assembly doesn't mean the pencil is done for. What this whole teardown shows, really, is how well built these pencils are. Even decades later, they're working just like new. The tolerances Faber-Castell held across the standard, the L, and the Schwarz models meant these parts were built to work together, not just within one model. That's genuinely good news if you're restoring a rough example, hunting for parts, or just trying to keep a favorite pencil running. A cracked grip, a bent tip, or a worn-out clutch. None of that has to be the end of the pencil, as long as you know what's interchangeable and what to look for. And if you're buying one, now you know what to check for before you hand over your money. At the end of the day, that's part of what makes this lineup so satisfying to collect. Solid engineering that holds up, and enough shared parts across the family that keeping one alive is almost always possible. Thank you for watching, and I also want to thank the members of the Knocology Mechanical Pencil Forum, the Mechanical Pencil subreddit and Facebook groups, and a big shout out to my followers on X. Until the next video, good luck with your collection.